Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you for coming to today's session, Automate Tasks with Google Apps Script. My name is Brett Fortier, Director of Information Systems for the Office of Research at UCSB.
And I'm Cameron McNair. I'm a software developer for the Office of Research at UCSB.
The Office of Research is the administrative department for all the research that occurs on campus. We have a small IT team of 4, myself, Cameron, another developer, and a net admin. And together we develop and maintain a suite of contract and grant tracking applications and research compliance applications. In the URL here, if you'd like to go to this URL now, there's also some instructions that I handed out. It has instructions on how to use the source code and how to install the Gmail add-on. So today we are going to be coding using Google Apps Script, and we have 3 goals for today. One is to learn what Google Apps Script can do. 2 is to develop using Google Apps Script GAS. And 3 is we're going to deploy the add-on. And to help us, Cameron is going to give a brief demo on our implementation of GAS, which we call the Y-Drive Accelerator. And then we're going to go into today's coding session with an add-on that Cameron calls the Task Tracker. But first, I want to give you a little background on our project, our Y-Drive Accelerator project. Over the past couple of years, we've had a project called the Paper to PDF project, where we had rooms full of paper files that we scanned to PDF and attached them to our contract grant system. So we digitized this project folder, and in the project folder are contract and grant files. They're legal documents. So emails are part of the legal record, so our sponsored projects team of about 10 analysts and officers have to save some of those emails in the project folder. So using Gmail, to get the Gmail to a Windows Server file location, the old way, you had to go to print as PDF, go to the download folder, get the file from the download folder, search thousands of project folders, hopefully choose the right one, paste it in, right-click, unzip if there's more than one attachment to the email. Still not done yet. You have to rename all the files according to project naming conventions. It was maddening for our sponsored projects team, and they asked, can you automate this process for us? So we looked at a couple different solutions. One was we used Gmail. So we looked at maybe using Outlook client, forwarding the email to a service that would do something similar. We checked out couple different Chrome extensions that would maybe work for us, but none of them had kind of our criteria of kind of a one-click solution to saving this email. Until Cameron discovered Google Apps Script. He went from knowing no GAS to learning it, developing it, and deploying a solution. It's a small Gmail add-on, but it works really well in 3 weeks. So in terms of office efficiency gain versus development time, that's a big bang for your buck, 3 weeks. How big was the bang? At our current workload, we run the script, or the user runs the script about 65 times a day. The old print as PDF, find project folder method took an average about 3 minutes, times 5 times a day. That's 16 staff hours saved per week for a group of 10. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And not to mention that it saves the user from a really tedious task. I mean, they're concentrating on their work, they're writing, they're thinking, their legal documents. They don't want to sideline and do this 3-minute task, cutting, pasting, renaming, and everything. So it helps them a lot. Now I think Cameron's going to get into a little bit about what exactly GAS is, and then we'll do some coding.
Yeah, so Brett's talked a little bit about how we've used AppScript in our office, but let's take a step back and just talk about exactly what it is and what it can do. So at its core, Google AppScript is just a scripting language. It's based off of JavaScript, so any of you guys out there who are JavaScript developers are going to be really comfortable writing in AppScript. And its core goal is to add custom functionality to G Suite and allow you to interact with other apps, other G Suite apps. So in our office, the way we've done it is we are interacting between Gmail and Drive. We're saving our files to Google Drive. And Google Apps Script projects are hosted on Google servers. So that has some pros and cons. The nice thing is that you don't have to worry about maintaining different installations and the syncing process. That's all done by Google for you. And so it's running in Google's cloud. So drawback there is that some of the functions don't run as fast as they would if they were running locally. So what can you do with GAS? Well, the easiest thing is just to write these standalone scripts. So that's good if you have just some task that needs to run on an occasional basis. So nothing that needs to be running every day. You can schedule these scripts to run every day if you want to. They also have web apps. So these are basically just get and post endpoints. So if you have maybe another API that's calling, that you want to have interact with some app script, you can have it call your web app, which just is a URL, basically. You can connect to other APIs, your own or third-party APIs and databases through URL requests and JDBC requests. And in Sheets in particular, you can add things like custom functions and custom macros. But what we're going to spend most of the time talking about today are add-ons. So what's an add-on? It's just an interface for your script that gives your users a lot of flexibility in terms of how they can customize whatever task you're trying to accomplish. So we'll show you how you access these. They're accessed through the right side of your G Suite application. And so there's third-party add-ons. You can see a few here. You got Trello, DocuSign, Zoom, Dropbox. There's a bunch more. But clearly a lot of these bigger companies have found that these add-ons can be really useful for their users. So those are the published add-ons. You don't have to publish an add-on. That's what we did. We're just sticking with a developer add-on. So it's essentially just a private add-on that we maintain all the installations for. And if you're a domain admin, you can install these add-ons on a domain-wide basis or on an individual basis. So there's two types of add-ons right now. The first one's called editor add-ons. We're not going to talk too much about this because they are going to be moving away from editor add-ons. Google is in just a few months here. So basically the main difference between editor add-ons and what I'll show you next is that editor add-ons, you write the UI just like you would with a lot of your other applications through HTML and CSS. And so the second option are card-based add-ons. And right now, these are only available for Gmail. That's going to be changing in Q3. They're going to be releasing, Google is going to be releasing G Suite wide add-ons. So you can install one add-on that will, if they enable it, run across the G Suite application environment. So you can install DocuSign and it'll work in your Gmail and it'll work in your Docs and Sheets. So with these card-based add-ons, you're running your UI in AppScript files, so JavaScript files. And you're doing this through the use of widgets. So essentially, Google just has a set library of predefined widgets that render as HTML on the client. And so the clients that you can use right now are the web G Suite clients and then also Android. They don't have any official iOS support yet. They haven't even officially said that they're going to have iOS support, but it's pretty much guaranteed that they will at some point. They're just not announcing it yet. So I know we're not all Microsoft, or we're not all Google teams here. A lot of you guys are using Office. So Office has add-ins, just the equivalent of G Suite add-ons. They're really flexible. They're good too. They're all based on this HTML interface. And you can use them in all of the web, desktop, and mobile. So it's a really good alternative. This presentation's more focused on Google, but hopefully you can use some of the ideas that we're going to be talking about in your Office applications, if that's what you desire. Okay, so that's it for our slides. Before we get into the code along, does anyone have any questions so far about what we've talked about?
if this URL is some instructions and the source code, but if you want to, while Cameron continues talking, open up Gmail and Drive and Calendar. You have two-factor authentication, maybe get that going. So we'll be using those apps, at least Calendar and Gmail.
You mentioned for the add-on, you needed to be the GSpeed admin to add an add-on for the whole community. Is Research UCSB part of UCSB's?
No.
So that's actually something that's really annoying. You can't have sub-admins. So ETS on campus here, that's the central IT, they are the domain admins. So when we wanted to distribute that to our users, we had to basically assign everyone, give everyone the ID, install it for them, give them permission to the script. So it's a bit of a hassle, especially if you have a larger office. We were only doing it for about 10 people. So, any other questions? Yeah.
How do you version control your scripts? Separate systems?
Yeah, they have version control integration. It is not good. As far as I didn't use it, honestly, we didn't have that need, but there is a way to do it. I can't really vouch for how easy it is to use it. Anyone else? All right, well, we can get started with the code along now. So hopefully you guys were able to visit that research URL, and hopefully you're able to install the script onto your drive. But just in case you haven't done that, I'll just show you really quickly how you can do that. This is the link that you'll find at our research website. And in here, you can see we have a copy of today's presentation if you want to reference the slides. We've got the add-on that's completed here, and then the skeleton. So actually, before I do this, I just want to demo our add-ons so you can see what they actually look like in use here. So I've got my Gmail here, and you can see on this right side, I have 2 copies of the Y-Drive Accelerator here. I have a development version and a production version, and then Task Tracker, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm just going to show you what our office does. So in here, you can see we have a text field for a record number, file name, and then a few options here. For our users, all they really need to do is type in most often a record number. And that's just a unique identifier in our system that we can use to tell our service where to put the emails. And if we have an email with a record number in the subject line, we can pull it in like that just to save our users any effort at all. So the idea is all they'll do is enter in the correct record number, and they can change the file name if they want to. Select which emails that they want to include from the thread. So oftentimes threads will include quoted text from previous emails, so it doesn't always make sense to include the previous emails, and it just gets really confusing. And then whether or not they want to include attachments. So let's just see what this looks like. I'm gonna change this to 2018-002 and save. So for our users, this is all that they have to do in order to save their email correspondence. Before, Brett was talking about how you have to go in somewhere in here. I don't even remember how to do it, honestly, but you have to do save as PDF, get all the attachments, and then we have a really complex naming system and a complex folder structure. So it can be a lot of time to just do a simple thing like moving your emails over. So I don't know if you saw, but there's a little notification that popped up that just said thread saved. And for our users, that's it. They're done. I'll show you what the script does. So our add-on, what it does is it just pulls the thread, pulls the HTML out of this thread, and converts it to a PDF and stores it in the special folder location. This is our dev location here. So you should be able to see 2018-002. And then a PDF copy of that email thread. Things like images don't work, but we don't really need images for our saves. And you can see you've got your email headers, all that in there. And then we have a second part of this process that's just a Windows service that's constantly checking our special folder location, and it moves the emails over to our Windows server. So that's our whole process. Let's look at what we're going to be doing today. So I've got this task tracker add-on here, and the idea behind this add-on, it's kind of not going to be super useful for most of you, but the idea is, let's say you have a pretty bad memory and you can't remember anything that you do during the day. Yeah, me too. You can't remember who you've responded to, and if you need to like reference it, like what did I do last week? Tell my boss what I did last week. This add-on will keep track of all of your tasks that you want to enter. So it'll save anything that you type in this description into a Google Calendar event. So it'll just correspond with each day you've entered your tasks. And then you can include a link to the email. So you can reference what you've done. So let's just see what this looks like. So we'll say removed 2019-1556. And then I'll include a link to this email. So we should see a little task added notification, and I'm going to go over to my Google Calendar, and you can see there's this task tracker event. If I open it up here, the description for this event is just what I typed, removed 2019-1556. And then if I click this, it should take me directly to this email thread. So, I mean, pretty trivial, but it's a good way to show how you can interact with this completely separate G Suite app. And now it'll also update the description in the add-on here. So just do it again, see how it'll add on to the description. It won't create a separate event for each task. Question. Include the link again. And you can see the event description is updated. So pretty simple, but we don't have that much time today, so let's see how far we can get. So back to this folder, as I said, there's a completed version of that add-on in here. So if you don't really want to do the code along, if you just want to see how it looks, you can install that one, or we're going to do right-click on the skeleton and make a copy. So this should create a copy of Task Tracker in your local My Drive. And you can just double click that. If you don't have AppScript installed by default on your G Suite account, you should see a little prompt that tells you to install AppScript. Did everyone get that? Okay. If you didn't, for whatever reason, I can just show you really quickly how to do it. Just right click in here, right next to the name, go to more, and then down here, connect more apps. It's kind of hard for me to get there, but you can just type in AppScript and it should show up. You can connect it there. So hopefully you don't need to do it that way, but just in case. So let's see what it looks like. I've written most of the code already, so we're just gonna be focused on two functions here. This build main card, that's gonna create the UI for the add-on, and then just a few things in the save. So when you click the button, we're gonna do a few things in there. If at any point you guys get lost during this code along, I have copied out or commented out the full functions here. So if you need to, just copy and paste it in there and hopefully you can get back on track. So I think with that, we are able to get started. The first thing I wanted to show you is there's this special file called the manifest. And this is kind of like the brain for your add-on. It has all the scopes, the authorization scopes that are going to be required in here. So you got your run as an add-on, access Gmail, there's calendar in there too. It's got like your colors, icon, and then which function to run on startup. So before I get going, is everyone who wants to do the add-on, are they in the script here? Is everyone good?
I'm in the script, but I don't have an app script on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, so the way you get to there is you go view and then show manifest file. I don't know why they don't show that by default. Like in any script, basically you'll need to have access to the manifest, but for whatever reason, they don't show up by default. And you won't need it for this demo. I just wanted to show you guys that. Okay, so let's get started. As I said, we're going to be doing a card-based add-on. So we're going to need a card. And the way you do that is by accessing the card service. So this is a special service within Google Apps Script. And we're going to want to build a card. So we're going to want a new card builder. So one thing to note, the IntelliSense, you have to use Enter, not Tab, which is the worst thing in the world.
In uppercase, lowercase.
Yeah, it is case sensitive, so be careful. And then we're just going to start with a really basic hello world. So we're going to add a header to this card that says hello world.
And those are semicolons at the end of the lines.
Semicolons. It's all JavaScript based, so hopefully this isn't too foreign for everyone. So we're going to set the header now. And as you can see, it requires a card header object. So let's create that. We're going to be using card service a lot during this. All of the widgets are based on the card service. So card service.new card header. And then all we're going to do is just set the title for this header. You can see all the different functions that are available to a card header. We're just going to be using set title. Hello world. All right, so we have our card object now, and we just need to return it. Well, we need to build it and return it. So let's do that. Return card.build. And so this build main card function, you can see it's getting called in the build add-on function. That build add-on function is defined in the manifest, just tells AppScript which function to run when the add-on's opened. So at this point, we are ready to publish our add-on. It doesn't do anything very fun, but this is now able to be a full functioning add-on. So let's do that. Let's see what that looks like. We're going to go up to publish and then deploy for manifest. So in here, you'll see there's the latest version. This is what you'll use as like your development version. This is automatically created for you when you create a new AppScript project. We're just going to get the ID. So we're going to want to copy this deployment ID and then close out. So again, just to get there, publish, deploy from manifest. Okay, so we've got our deployment ID, and now we're ready to install this add-on. We're going to be installing it to Gmail. So open up your Gmail if you don't have it already open, and then go to your settings page. It's the gear icon and then settings. Normally, you would add these add-ons by clicking this Get Add-ons button. That's for the published third-party add-ons. So if you wanted to install DocuSign, let's say, you would do it this way. But because we're going to be doing a private developer add-on, we're going to do it a little differently through the settings page. So yeah. Okay. Deploy as, deploy from manifest. They have this deploy as add-on. That's for the editor add-ons. It's kind of confusing. The code, yeah. So yeah, we're just working this build main card function, and we're just setting the header for the card as hello world. And like I said, these functions are commented out at the bottom of the file. So if something's not working, just reference that. So let's go back to Gmail here. We'll go to the settings page, gear icon, settings. If you want to float around, see. And so in here, you should see your add-ons tab. Let's hit add-ons. And there's a little checkbox here that says enable developer add-ons for my account. If you don't already have that checked, make sure you check that. And then you should see this text box. And in this text box, you're going to just want to enter in the deployment ID that you copied over from your AppScript file. And then just hit install. So now this will ask you if you trust yourself. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you trust me too. and install it. So give it a few seconds here, and we should see that it has been installed. Yeah, so the development mode add-on setting has been saved. And we can see that it's here now. So once I go back to my inbox, I should see another task tracker icon, and it should tell you task tracker has been installed. So let's see if we can access our Hello World. First, it's going to ask us to authorize our add-on. So the first time you install it, you're going to have to authorize. It's going to show you, so just select your account here, and it's going to show you the scopes that are defined in the manifest. I've set these already, so it's just accessing your calendar, accessing your email, and your time zone to display. Actually, I don't think we need time zone. So just hit allow, and hopefully we see Hello World. So we've got our functioning add-on now. It's not very interesting, but hopefully we've all gotten there. Is everyone following there? Yeah. In your settings page? That's a little tricky. Do you have the new version of Gmail? There was an update to Gmail a while ago, at least for UCSB. It was like, try the new University of California, Santa Barbara email. So if you don't have that, you'll need to upgrade your Gmail in order to do that.
I just switched my personal Gmail as opposed to my university Gmail.
Oh, really? Which university are you from?
UCI.
Okay. So maybe it's that UCI doesn't have the new version of Gmail installed.
They don't always update to the newest, newest version immediately.
Okay. Well, this one's a little bit older now, so I mean, hopefully that's on the roadmap, because ideally you would install like DocuSign too, could be useful for you guys. So
from when you said deploy from manifest.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, go to publish, and you'll have your different publishing options. The one we're going to want to do is deploy from manifest. And then this is our latest version. Get ID, copy over the deployment ID. And then, so I guess this is where, if you don't have the add-ons tab, this is where it's pretty easy to get lost too. Go to your settings, the gear icon, settings. Don't do the get add-ons, that'll do this thing again. And then from the add-ons tab, enable developer add-ons, and then just paste that deployment ID in here. Yeah, yeah, it's not intuitive, like they don't say paste deployment ID. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Also, when I went over to the wrote it in my UCI account,
Yeah.
I switched over just to mention that I had to also give myself permission.
Yeah. You'll have to do that, or just copy it over again. Copy it, like create a whole new project. So yeah, that's a bummer that they don't have the add-ons enabled. Talk to your guys.
Yeah, we have another one over here. UCSB is,
Same thing?
yeah.
Huh. Okay.
It's not able to install.
Let's see. Let's just take a quick look here. So it's sounding like some of the universities are not enabling developer add-ons, which is going to make this code along a little bit more difficult.
We could go personal Gmail account, so you have one, you want to do that? Does it work in PCLM?
Okay.
Just
Well, that's interesting.
the add-on there. I think that's
I just share. I don't mind working in just like.
Well, hopefully the Zoom folks are able to switch over to their personal accounts right now, and anyone in the room who wants to do that, you can just do the same steps completely, just sign in as your personal account. I think you'll want to sign out of your university account, because there's a specific little line of code that will take you to your default account. So whoever wants to to run this from their personal accounts. We're just going to move forward here. So we've got our hello world code. Let's start to make this a little bit more robust. So we're going to change the hello world to save tasks to Google Calendar. And what we're going to want to do now is just add the little text box that enables you to enter a description. So let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, you have to add widgets to your cards, but cards are also broken up into sections too. So we're going to need a declare section here. Our section, and again with the card service, declare a new section. Oops, new card section. Okay, and now we're going to want to add a widget to this section. So section.add widget, and it's asking for a widget object. All UI elements are derived from the base widget class. So the one that we're going to want to use is a text input. So again, card service, new text input. And so we're going to want to set the title for this text input. It's just going to be what is displayed to your users. So we're going to say set title, and then task description. So they know that they're supposed to describe what they're doing. Okay, we're almost done with this. The only other thing we're going to do is set it as multi-line, just in case they have a really long description. So set multi-line true. Don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then we're done with that widget. So the only other thing we need to do now before we'll be able to see this is just add our section to our card. We've declared it, but now we need to add it to the card. So just card.add section, and we've already defined section. So at this point, now when we go back to our add-on, we should be able to see the text box. The nice thing about Google Apps Script is you don't really have to manage like publishing it. All you have to do is just click save. And now if we go back to our inbox, we should hopefully be able to see the new box. Oh, blew it. Object does not have property. Let's take a look here. New card section, card service. Is anyone seeing this that I'm just missing here? Okay, well, good thing we have the cheat sheet down here. Just gonna do that. It's as much for me as it is for you guys. Where is it here? Oh, I needed to put the field name. So it's important. There's one required field for these text inputs, and that's the field name. So this is how the add-on is going to be able to reference the control. So we're going to set field name, and I've called it txt task desk. And it's kind of important to use this naming, or if you're going to use a different naming convention, just remember that for later. We're going to need to reference this field. So hopefully now this should be fixed. Okay, cool. We've got this text box now with the task description. We're able to type in here, but we want to be able to save it to our calendar now. So we're going to need to add a button that will save it to the calendar. Let's go back over here. And so we're going to need a button. Great. Our button, again, based on the card service. And we're going to be doing a new text button. So this is going to be a button with text on. And we're going to set the text for the button as add task. Okay, we need to tell the button to do something though. So in AppScript, the buttons have something called an action or click action. So we're going to need to define that click action. And do var action equals card service. And we're going to need an action, new action. And what this action is going to do, it's just going to run a function that we've already defined. So I've already created the save task callback function here. And we're just going to need to tell the action that that's the function we want to run. So we'll do set function name, save task callback. Okay, so we've got our action here, and we just need to add it to the button now. So set on click action. And it's just going to use the default action name. All right, so now our button is all good. We just need to add it to the section. So let's do that. It's a little trickier with buttons, so it's kind of unintuitive, but that's all right. So we're going to add the widget just like we did with the text box. But you can't just add button here. You have to do card service and then a new button set. So I guess that's just in case you have multiple buttons that you want to display on one line. And then add button. Okay, we've already added the section to the card, so we don't have to do anything else there. And let's just go ahead and see what this looks like. Again, to refresh it, all you need to do is just save your code, and then it should show you the most recent version. So let's open up our add-on, and we should see this button now. It's not going to do anything though. We need to do a few more things over in our script before it's gonna actually save over to the calendar. So let's go down to our save task callback. It's just the next function. And again, this is commented below. So if I'm going too fast here, hopefully I'm not, but we only got 7 more minutes. So got to fly it here a little bit. We're going to access the inputs on the form. So I've already declared this inputs variable, which has all of our form inputs. So we need to now reference the text box that we declared earlier and get the value from it. So let's do that. We're going to access the input description through this inputs variable that I've created. So you just access it with its name. So I've named it txt task desk. Like I said earlier, if you used a different name for your text box, just make sure you enter that here. And then we're going to cast it as a string. All right, so we've got our input description. I've already written some code here that will get today's calendar event. If it doesn't already exist, it'll create today's calendar event and then set the description for that event as null string or whatever it already exists. So we just need to update our existing description with this input desk value. So a really simple line here. Desk is the master description plus input desk. All right. So now we should be able to actually see how this works with our calendar. I'm gonna refresh the code again. We already know that our button's there. We've already got our text box there. So hopefully this doesn't bomb. Answered question. Okay, cool, task added. Hopefully you all see that too. And let's go over to our calendar. If you don't have that open, open up your calendar. And you can see this task tracker event. Oh, I didn't delete the one from earlier, but as you can see, all it's doing is checking for an event of that same name. So even though it was created by a different add-on, it's just checking for the event name. And we've got this answered question. So everyone, how are we doing? Did I lose you guys? Good? Okay, we only have 5 more minutes. I was gonna include the link code, so it'll include the link to our email, but I don't think we have time for that. If you wanna go ahead and do that, again, just reference either the completed code, the separate project, that has a few more other widgets too, that we weren't gonna get to at all in this demo. Or you can just go to the bottom of the skeleton and then either just comment out the top functions and uncomment the bottom, or just copy and paste the relevant lines. So I wanted to stop here and just make sure we're all good. Anyone have any other questions? General app script questions? Yeah.
I have a question about your business logic on the original one.
Yeah.
Saving document.
Yeah.
So you're using that to save a file and an attachment to Google Drive, and then you've got a Windows machine with service monitoring that drive to do it?
Exactly, yeah. So we can't save directly from the add-on to our file server. So it's basically just a 2-step process. But for our users, they don't even know that we have this service running.
And you create 2 files, one for the email message and one for one or more for the attachment?
Yeah, exactly. And it won't cast the attachments as PDFs. It'll use whatever the default attachment type is. So not losing data. Yeah. The only caveat to that is if you have emails with tons and tons of attachments, it's probably going to time out. So that's another restriction from using this Google hosted platform. They have a 30-second execution limit for custom functions. And that's something that we actually did run into. That was happening a lot because it was pulling in long threads and then long lists of attachments. So it's not going to be perfect in every case. We have it so that if it doesn't finish, we have special flag files that get saved to the Google Drive. And if our Windows service doesn't find those flag files, it will email the user saying, yeah, this didn't work, you need to copy it manually. Any other
Anyone
questions?
who wants the add-on who didn't get it? I can install it real quick. Anyone want to uninstall the add-on?
Yeah. Was that the worst thing ever? And I don't want to even think about this anymore.
How do you uninstall?
You just go back to settings, add-on, and then uninstall.
One other thing that I wanted to just briefly mention, because it's pretty cool, is you can install these things called user properties and script properties for your add-ons. So if you have different like default values, like let's say for our accelerator app, if we didn't want people to save emails save attachments by default, users can set those preferences themselves, and then you store them in properties. So it's a good way to just, have different default values. And then you can also set script-wide values. So if you want to keep like a validated user list, for example, your add-on could check a script property that has a list of all validated users. Any other questions? Yeah.
What was the other file there, the documentation in the drive, the yellow automate?
That's just the slides from today's demo.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions about any of this, if you find yourself thinking about add-ons after this session, feel free to email us. You can find our info on the research website, go to the About Us section. I'm Cameron, this is Brett again. So unless there's any more questions, we can wrap it up there.
Very good.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
guys.